So it's our job to heal ourselves, right? And for most of us, we've endured and experienced all kinds of little t traumas, big T traumas. It's just what it is to be a human being, but it is our responsibility to heal the part of us that was traumatized. And there's a way to become trauma free. And I wanted to share my story today with you about how I became trauma free. And I know it sounds like, what do you mean trauma free? Nobody's ever going to be really trauma free, but I am. And this is what I do with my clients. They are then able to, through the work that we do together, they are able then to declare that they are trauma free. So let me just share quickly about my story of how I knew explicitly that I was actually trauma free. So I met a therapist a little while back, and she had told me a story about what happened to her when she was a young person, and it was horrific. It was like big T trauma, and she talked about therapist shopping for, 20 years, trying to find someone who would help her heal. So she was sharing her story, and she said that she's now trauma free. And I was like, what? What? Trauma free? What do you mean? Like the therapist in me, who's trauma free? Nobody's trauma free. So then some years went by, and I had this essentially a nervous breakdown. And it was really scary and dark, and I didn't know what was happening to me. And my trauma that was coming up, this tidal wave that was like taking me under emotionally, mentally, like just leveling my mental health, right? Where I was just like, not okay, just not okay. And I was at this place that it was so dark and it was so scary, and I felt so out of control, and I am having this experience that is feeling very alone in it. It was like the shit hit the fan, and it blindsided me, my own essential nervous, psychiatric, psychological breakdown is, and that's such a great word because that's what it was. It was a freaking mental breakdown. And it's hard to say that out loud, but it's exactly what it was. And it was like, where did that come from? I'm such a mess. I am so not okay. How did I get to this very thin layer of ice that I'm like, now I'm walking on? Like, how did I get here? And being here and feeling very frightened by my own emotional mental state. So I was at such a place where it was frightening for me. And I'm not somebody who reaches out a lot because I feel that I have a lot of tools. But this, I didn't have this one. And I felt like it was like life's way of saying, yeah, the way you experience yourself, Isabel, is you're this empowered person who helps other people. And now we're going to give you a real run for your money. Okay? You are going to be on your knees, girlfriend. So I was on my knees, and I remember calling a friend, and it was like a fucking lifeline. Okay? I was like hearing myself say out loud, I'm not okay. My best friend, she's also a therapist. And so she knew enough to know something really big has happened inside. This isn't just like having a bad day or feeling down or feeling like some things have caught up to me. I don't even recognize Isabel today. I was just talking to her last week and she's saying she was fine. And today, she's gone. She's gone. And I said to her, I have to go outside and go to the park and lay down on the grass because I don't trust myself being in my own home now. That's where my mental health went. And I just was so confused by this because I didn't see anything that I could identify as like the trigger for all of this. It was just like having its own life inside of me. And it was just like bubbling and churning. And I was just unaware. And then it just overtook me and I was toppling under the waves. It was like the biggest mental tsunami. And so when I was in that place and I was crawling out of that hole slowly, I remembered what that previous therapist colleague had shared with me about her past experience in finally becoming trauma-free. And I was thinking about the level of mental anguish that I was currently in. And I just said to myself, I've got to find whoever does this process. I found someone who is an expert at trauma incident reduction. And I said to this person, I'm like, not okay. I need to come see you as soon as possible. And this person was like, we could do this online. And I said, no, I trust it works online. I totally get it, but I need to come and see you in person. I don't know why, but I am going to come down to where you are and I'm going to rent an Airbnb for the weekend. And I want you to do whatever you did. I have clients next week. I've got to be able to show up for people. I've got to be able to know that I'm going to be okay for myself as well. And to heal and grow like I'm ready. I'm just like ready. I didn't get time to be in this place. I have got to figure this out and I've got to get back in my life. So we do a lot of work that weekend and I leave the weekend feeling very emotionally free. And I'm like, wow, okay, wow, I feel so good inside. I felt like whatever this stuff was, it really just, it's like it was gone, right? I was like, okay, wow, so that heaviness and that darkness and that scary place, like it's lifted, it's gone, it's gone, literally, like my trauma just left the building. And you know how I know that I'm trauma-free? What you need to know is for the last 15 years, how my trauma presented was fears and phobias. So my fear and phobia was of heights. I couldn't go into small places. I couldn't go into elevators. I couldn't go into tall buildings. I couldn't go higher than a 6-story building I could be in because I had to make sure that I could escape, right? It's this overwhelming fear of being trapped. This entrapment experience was this fear and this phobia, and it presented in so many ways. If I went to a restaurant and I was sitting in a booth, I would have to be the person sitting on the outside of the booth. I would have to be able to see the exit door from where I was sitting, my escape route, like in my brain to tell me, I'm going to be safe. Oh, I couldn't go on like Disneyland, Islands of Adventure, all of those kind of things. No. Terrifying. Anything that I had to stand in a line, even at the airport, the security lines, you know how they create this kind of line that goes like for days? There's no way. I would have an absolute panic attack. And on a plane, I would absolutely have to have an aisle seat. If it was a window, I would have to get off the plane. So sometimes if I missed a connecting flight and they were like, oh yeah, we got you on this next flight. And I walked in and it was in the back or it was in a window and somebody wasn't going to be willing to switch seats with me, you know who you are. Stop doing that. Be nice to people. And I would have to get off the plane. It would be so shameful. I would have to go and get a whole nother ticket, wait, get a hotel, whatever it is, because I'm not going to go on that plane if it's not an aisle seat and if it's not close enough to the front so I can get out, right? 50,000 feet up in the air. And so all of these manifestations of my trauma turned into panic attacks. And I know you can relate. Everybody who's experienced profound anxiety, panic attacks, this is all about our trauma. So I've been trying to manage my trauma for a good 15 years. This is how I know I'm trauma-free. So my girlfriend is going to go out of the country for the holidays, and she asked me, hey, do you want to come and stay and watch my cat in Manhattan at my apartment for a couple of weeks? Of course, New York City, who doesn't love New York City? So there I am. I'm super excited to go to New York. It is Christmas time. I'm all excited about my skating around the Rockefeller Center and the whole bit. So I get out of the Uber, and it occurs to me when I get out that I forgot to ask my friend where she lived. So I then look at the address and I see the address and I see it says apartment 3318. And my brain is trying to take that in. 3318. What kind of apartment would be 3318? And I look up and I look at the address to see if I'm in the right place. And I'm like, no, this is not happening. And it's a 60-story skyscraper. And I say to myself, oh shit, it's 60 stories. 3318 has to be the 33rd floor. So I'm standing there and I just go in the building and I go up to the doorman and the person who's attending the front desk, and I check in and I get the fob to get into my girlfriend's apartment, and I go to the elevator. Nobody's there at the elevator. And I just walk to the elevator and I'm standing in front of the elevator, and what I notice is I don't feel any kind of way. Normally, in that situation, my heart would be beating out of my chest. I would be sweating. I would be thinking about a plan B. I would be thinking about getting a flight home, calling the whole thing off. And I notice I'm standing there and I put my hand to my chest just to feel my heart. And I take this breath and I'm literally checking in with myself. And I'm feeling inside and I'm looking around like inside of my body as to say, are you okay? And my body says back to me, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So I get in the elevator. I'm like, okay, let me try this again. Normally in an elevator, just the idea of going more than a few floors would just be total panic attack. So I get up, it's lightning fast. I get out the elevator doors and I am walking down this hallway and I walk into her apartment. And typically, if I ever would have done that in a high building, I wouldn't be able to look out the window. I'd have to have the curtains closed so I didn't see where I was, because that would be a huge trigger. So all the windows are open. It's floor to ceiling, glass windows, and then, of course, Simba, the most amazing cat in the entire universe. And what I notice is I get to the window and I look down and I feel so peaceful. And I feel completely trauma-free. I feel like how I used to feel before all of these traumatic things that I went through that caused all these fears and phobias. And I remember being that person who would jump on any plane, take any seat, I don't care. And that just one day just changed and I was not fearless anymore. I was disordered. I was someone who was traumatized and had complex PTSD. And so I spent 2 weeks in New York, up and down in that elevator, celebrating the work that I had done and this realization of how we can actually heal ourselves. And I'm here, and my entire life is a testament to that. And so what's really special is I went in, I became trained in this approach, and I've been doing this work, and I'm in the work, and I know that what this is going to be for them. Not all therapists are trauma-informed and trauma-trained therapists. So if you want to address these fears, these phobias, this anxiety, we need to get away from managing all of our fears and phobias and anxiety and start to heal it. So we also become trauma-free and go back and reclaim that earlier version before all the trauma happened. there are incredible tools out there to heal ourselves and finally become trauma-free.